Democrats bet big on this race. So we spoke with Democratic campaign strategist Sean Clegg about what happened and what didn't happen in Georgia.
We got beat bad. I speak for the Democrats.
Well, so much for the whole issue of, money in politics. I mean, you can spend outrageous sums of money and still lose. I think people learn that. $50 million
was spent in that race. About 30 of it came on the Democratic side. Also, you made it a big agenda item on Donald Trump. It was going to be a referendum on Donald Trump. What happened?
I think in this case, more was less. The more we focused on Georgia, the more we amped up turnout in what was fundamentally a Republican district. And I think in that head-to-head battle of Donald Trump ads and Nancy Pelosi ads, those ads against Nancy Pelosi were far more effective revving up the base.
Is there such thing as doing too much? Because I talked to some phone bankers who were telling me that they would call people in Georgia, and because there's such a massive effort, the people in Georgia were going, wait a minute, this is the third phone call I've gotten today.
And from California? You're calling me from California?
Well, there was definitely a sense that California was an issue in suburban Atlanta, and it was an issue that
they
stuck
made
to John
television
Ossoff.
ads saying that the Democrat was going to be the next Nancy Pelosi.
And they had hippies standing in front of Fisherman's Wharf to prove the point.
All right, so once again, it proved that the metrics, the polling, the money, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because in South Carolina, Democrats almost won with no money.
Yeah, that's the really
They would have been better off
thing.
if they just laid back, shut up, and let the day happen.
So these four Republican districts where we've seen congressional races around the country are deep red seats. And the problem for Democrats is the more focus, the more heat, the more light you put on these races, the more you amp up turnout, the more it normalizes and becomes a Republican show. And this was Secretary Tom Price's seat, and I think he won the seat in November by about 23 points. It was a much closer race on Tuesday. And so, look, the silver lining for Democrats is we've seen about a 15-point shift nationally in these targeted races in favor of Democrats, not enough to get us over the finish line, but we are going to see a lot more House races in play next year based on these first four races.
Now, the same day, as we said there briefly, there was another race in South Carolina, and the Democrat did almost as well there with no money and no national attention.
Yeah, he only lost by about 3,000 votes, and he just got almost no support from the Democratic Party at large. A lot of people are asking, why didn't you send some of the resources there, even just a fraction of the resources there?
This Georgia race just caught everybody's resistance fever, right?
I mean, it did for some of the people who were there. But look, again, so Hillary Clinton lost by 1 point. So they thought, yeah, maybe we've got a shot here. We're going to focus here. But they did it like a laser and really ignored other things. I'll point out, too, the candidate in South Carolina was a former investment banker. The candidate in Georgia, documentary filmmaker. A lot of people saying, you know what, you've got to get people who are working people who have real jobs that people can relate to run for these seats. You can't keep running
it would also
sort of
help
wealthy
if you actually
liberals.
lived in the district. John Ossoff did not live in the district. He lived in the district next door. That kind of makes for an embarrassing question. Who are you going to vote for in the race? I can't vote in the race. If this was a novel, it would be hard to believe. The ongoing up and down in Washington, resistance and rebound, elections, rallies. Melissa and I asked Democratic campaign strategist Sean Clegg, what's going on with President Trump?
Every time Donald Trump gets into hot water, he finds his psychological and political comfort zone in one of these Make America Great Again rallies, and they had a big one in Des Moines.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever seen a sitting president hold a campaign rally 7 months after winning an election. All of a sudden, let's go back and begin 2020.
They're turning out. People are turning out in the places where he won. They're still there for him.
And they filled the arena very enthusiastically.
Look, the country remains very deeply divided, a lot of intensity of support for Donald Trump in his base. That has not changed. The Russia hearings haven't changed that. He remains a very, very popular figure in the Republican Party.
And if you look at focus groups, they'll say, we don't care about Russia. We think that the reason that nothing has happened yet in D.C., that we haven't gotten the tax reform or the health care repeal, is because we blame Congress for doing that. So you don't see among a number of his supporters anyone actually putting blame on him for anything specific.
I grew up in an America where the Democratic Party was the party of the little guy. Interesting fact about the November election. Hillary won about 500 counties. Trump won about 2,000. the 500 counties she won represent about 2/3 of this country's wealth and GDP. So people are doing well where Democrats are doing well, and Democrats are doing poorly where people aren't doing well, and that's a fundamental contradiction for the party in terms of policy and
How much of
message.
this has to do with Trump's ability to communicate, talk directly to those people?
I think it's a deep factor, and the number one thing about Donald Trump, and I think that's plagued Democrats over the last couple of cycles, is Donald Trump's talking directly to the middle class. He's saying their name, he's talking to them on trade, he's talking to them on manufacturing jobs, he's talking to the middle class. He's speaking to their resentment. The middle class in this country, they feel flown over, looked over, passed over.
You know, it's going to be interesting in the upcoming week. We have all this about Russia and hacking and the past election. Now we're starting to move into where do you take it as far as health care goes, which affects everybody in the country.
That's right. Healthcare, tax reforms. I know a lot of Republicans want to move on with the agenda, try and get some things done, at least get a vote up or down. What I think is interesting is that all of this, sort of storm and drang, and the big enemy, the big villain here, Nancy Pelosi, not Barack Obama. They don't run ads against, Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama or any of these other Democratic proxies. Our Congresswoman has become the Republican boogeyman in
That's
ads
because
and other
she's
things.
there.
Well, because she's in
She's
Washington.
there, she's here, she's happening.
But there's a lot of Democrats there. They've zeroed in on her, especially our representative there.
Exactly, but she's staying.